We're starting Module 4 today. This is the first lecture, and our subject matter is propaganda. It's a touchy subject, but it's very timely. It's one of those things that we do need to talk about, but we need to do it respectfully. We have talked about pastoral fantasy, or in other words, it's persuasion, is, is how to put it. In the advertising world, pastoral fantasy is used as a tool to evoke emotion, taking us back to a kinder, more genteel place that doesn't really exist. Some call this escapism, but nonetheless, it works. When used creatively, it can really dramatize a brand's story effectively. Knowing how and when to use it is key. How does pastoral work in an advertisement? Well, it can create a distinctive brand asset. Like, for instance, take Tractor Supply there. It's set in a rural setting, doing those things that people think you should do in a rural setting and looking very peaceful. It showcases the benefits of the brand. It builds a platform for storytelling. You can really evoke some emotion response through the storytelling of it. And it dramatizes the product performance. It looks like it works well, so it must work well. So I'm going to show you a short commercial, short um, little video that is a dramatization of a product. And I want you to watch it and start using your critical thinking skills to see whether or not how you think that they have presented their material. Okay, so let's get started.
Here's a couple of things America got right. Cars and freedom.
So I'm going to use this for our participation exercise. What I want you to do is to give me your opinion. Is this propaganda or is this pastoral fantasy? There are no wrong answers. I just want an answer. So commonly we think of propaganda as a wartime tool. This ad was in a wartime in the revolution. This was set in a famous period in our history using clothing and flags to give the identity of the two approaching sides. So I want you to tell me whether you think this was propaganda or pastoral fantasy. Okay. You can watch the video several times if you want to. So let's talk about propaganda versus persuasion. The two are sort of related. It really gets down into the details. Propaganda, its goal is to manipulate public opinion and control behavior to serve a hidden agenda or political cause. The methods that propaganda uses is biased, misleading, or false information loaded with language and with loaded language, I'm sorry, there's a difference, with loaded language and appeals to emotion to shape attitudes. The nature of it is deceptive, manipulative, and lacks transparency. The audience feels they have no choice but to comply, leading to public compliance, face forward compliance without really accepting it. An example of that is wartime propaganda promoting hatred of the enemy, smear campaigns, or state controlled media presenting one sided information. Okay, moving to persuasion. The goal of persuasion is to influence beliefs, attitudes, or behaviors by appealing to an audience's sense of logic, reason, and values. It employs logical arguments, evidence, credibility, and emotional appeals in a very transparent manner. The nature of it is open, transparent, and based on legitimate arguments, allowing for the audience's choice. The audience has the freedom to accept or reject the message, leading to private acceptance if the message is convincing. An example of persuasion is advertising that presents a product's benefits, a recruitment campaign asking for volunteers, or a salesman making a cause for a product. Now, you can get your floors cleaner with this product, whatever it persuasion. It's not saying this is the only thing you can use and you just need to shut up and sit down. It's trying to convince that it's a good product. There are the two sides of this particular coin. So the distinction between the two, persuasion and propaganda, is this. The difference lies in the freedom of choice given to the audience by, and it's the intent of the communicator. Persuasion involves a conscientious attempt to influence, but it respects the audience's autonomy to make their own decisions. Propaganda, however, seeks to control and bypass independent judgment through manipulation, coercion, that's a hard word for me, and lack of transparency. Okay, so there is a real distinct difference between the two. The two can sound sort of similar and look sort of similar, but deep down there's a real difference. The key characteristics of propaganda is that it has a specific agenda. Propagandists seek to promote a particular cause, ideology, group, or individual and target their message to a specific audience that they want to influence. They also use emotional manipulation. The most effective propaganda bypasses critical thinking by activating strong emotions like fear, anger, hope, pride. The emotional framing makes the message more memorable and persuasive. They also control information. They selectively present facts and simplify complex issues, often obscuring or distorting the truth to benefit their agenda. This can involve using partial truths, repeating messages endlessly, or outright lying. There are several types of propaganda. I read an article from from people named Jolet and O'Donnell, and they named propaganda, the three types of propaganda, as white, gray, and black. Well, I don't think that those are totally accurate. So I took the liberty of renaming them for more clarity, actually. The first one is open propaganda. The source is openly and correctly identified. The information is mostly accurate. It's designed to build credibility with the audience. Then the second one, ambiguous propaganda. The source is ambiguous or not disclosed at all. The information may or may not be accurate. The last one I have renamed disguised propaganda. The source is disguised as a different, often hostile organization. The information is typically false and created to damage the opponent's reputation. So that is just out and out lying in this case. So you've got to be able to distinguish the things that you're hearing, the messages you're hearing. The internet and social media have changed how propaganda is created and spread. The first one is amplified reach. Algorithms, bots, and targeted ads allow narratives to be spread rapidly and widely, often bypassing traditional media gatekeepers. There's also blurred lines. Modern propaganda is often disguised as ordinary content like social media posts, memes, or sponsored content, making it harder for people to distinguish it from genuine information. Then there is data-driven targeting. Sophisticated data analysis is used to create highly specific user profiles, and we all have them too. Don't doubt that. which allows propagandists to tailor messages to specific individuals based on their preferences and online habits. Do you ever notice that a lot of your posts that are not from friends or something sort of have the same theme? Well, that's because of your user profile. So here are some tactics that they use in propaganda. The first one is name calling, using derogatory labels to recreate a negative presentation of an opponent or an idea. Bandwagon, encouraging people to adopt a belief or action by suggesting everyone else is doing it. That's one we've heard in elementary school for sure, but that's one of the propagandists' tools. Um, Glittering generalities, using vague, emotionally appealing words that carry a positive connotation but don't really have any substance at the end of the day. And then there's card stacking, presenting only one side of an issue by emphasizing favorable facts and omitting, totally leaving out negative ones. And then there is the testimonial, using an endorsement from a respected or famous person to promote a product, cause, or candidate. The last tactic is called plain folks, which is basically attempting to convince the audience that the message's source is a relatable everyday person who has their best interest at heart. Some examples of these, that examples of people or groups that use these political campaigns. Let's face it, both sides do this. There is no side in this. It's just politicians being politicians. They use propaganda to project a positive image of themselves and criticize their opponents. Advertising uses these tactics as well. They aim to convince consumers to buy a product by emphasizing its positive qualities. Wartime messaging. This is it's over and over through history. This wartime messaging has been used. Wartime messaging. This has been used throughout the ages. During conflicts, governments use propaganda to boost morale among citizens and military forces. So, that's all we're going to do today. Next up, we're going to take a look at how propaganda has evolved through the ages. If you have any questions, feel free to text or email me. And there's what we're going to do next. See you then.